Hello, everyone, and welcome to Promoting Skills, Sustainability and Collaboration through Digital Learning throughout the Middle East and North Africa, a webinar discussion held in partnership between Times Higher Education and Coursera for Campus. My name is Ashton Wemborn, and I'm the Special Projects Deputy Editor at THE. We're joined today by a number of experts and decision makers from MENA's higher education sector. So I'd like to introduce Sama Gamar, Director of the Teaching and Learning Centre at the Doha Institute for Graduate Studies. Dr. Faye Abdullah Al Khalifa, Director of the E-Learning Centre at the University of Bahrain. Professor Imed Hamouda, Dean of the Mediterranean Institute of Technology at Southern Mediterranean University. Monji Bezvez, Vice-Chancellor of the University of Carthage, and Zaher Sroor, Director of Partnerships at Coursera. Thank you to our panel for speaking with us today, and also to our audience for joining the session. We will be taking questions throughout the webinar, so please feel free to enter those in the chat box on your screen. With its focus on planned economies, MENA is seizing the challenge of increasing access to education and future-proofing its workers for an uncertain jobs market. By making use of digital tools, higher education institutions in the region can deliver high-quality teaching that focuses on skills, sustainability, and collaboration. So I'd like to begin today's discussion by asking how universities in the MENA region are modernizing to prepare their students for the future of work. Perhaps we could go first to Monji. Can you tell us about what measures the University of Carthage is taking? Sorry, I think you're just on mute at the moment.
Do you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Yes,
thank you.
The University of Carthage is aware that the cohort of students entering high school next year will be in the workforce around 2025, only to retire around 2060. We need to train the student to use tools that still don't exist. At very least, we need to educate them to be open to change, to use a plethora of ICT tools, but above all, we need to enable them to learn how to find the right tool and how to analyze and critique it. Information that is there, because in the 21st century, the worst attitude that the world of education can adopt on the face of the challenges which arise in society is to stand still. Where to teach in the digital age, when, what, how, or what new technologies make it necessary to ask these basic questions, because these tools offer new possibility to educators. So why deprive ourselves of it without abusing it? Let me, if you want, introduce some, put emphasis on 2 points about the MENA region. That a report released on September 2020 by the World Bank, a child born today in the Middle East and North Africa region will reach as an adult only 57% of the productive capacity that he or she could have accumulated by having benefited from a complete education and perfect health. However, the dynamism of youth and women in MENA region is a real source of hope. 2/3 of population is under 35 years old. These 2 points are conflicted by we can come over these difficulties and have a good training for our students.
Thank you. You mentioned there that the worst attitude a university can have is to stand still. And I think that's been a really important idea, certainly as universities have adapted to online learning, but definitely going forward, that ability to change quickly is going to be very valuable. So I wonder for other universities, perhaps we can go to Sama. How has the Doha Institute adjusted to that quick change of pace?
The question is for me or for?
For Sama, please.
The ambitions.
Sorry, Sama, I actually can't hear you at the moment. Not yet, I'm afraid. But we've had another panelist join us, so I'm just quickly going to introduce her. We've got Professor Awatif Haya, who is president of Hassan II University of Casablanca. Thank you very much for joining us today. We were just speaking about how universities in the region are modernizing to prepare their students for the future of work. And I know that Morocco is moving to a new bachelor system where the first year is a foundation focusing on skills development. So could you explain to us about that program and the impact that you think it will have for graduates?
Thank you very much for the invitation and for inviting me.
Sorry, it looks like that video has cut out a little bit there. These are the perils of online interactions. We could move perhaps to Professor Imed. What has your experience of modernizing for students, both in and out of the COVID restrictions?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. So I just said that, as you have also mentioned, that Morocco has decided to move to the bachelor system, and this shift was decided after spotting some major shortcoming in the old system, which is a rigid system that students, when they start, for example, a curricula, they cannot move from this curricula to another. They need to stay in a 3 year till obtaining their diploma. There is no option for reorientation. So this causes a high dropout rate. Only a small number of students manage to obtain their bachelor's degree out of the students initially enrolled in 3 years. And the other students quit the university studies after only the first or second year without obtaining any diploma or any credits. So I would like to mention also the very low rate of insertion of graduates in the job market, due mainly to the lack of soft skills and language proficiency. This led to have weak profiles in the job markets that are I would say not matching for the needs of recruiters. Among the main shortcomings, we would state as well the rigidity of the existing system, as I have already mentioned. It is a system that is less flexible and gives not enough room for studies. I don't know if you still hear me.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. So I would just, as I said, to mention that there is not enough room for students to switch from a field to another without being obliged to restart from zero. In order to fill this gap, Morocco is now preparing to adopt the bachelor system starting from the next academic year, which will be a foundation year. This new reform will be introduced gradually in an attempt to align the national education system with the international standards by upgrading the pedagogical offer in a new way to give students the necessary knowledge and skills to succeed in their academic and professional curricula and help them to meet the best expectation of the labor market. The bachelor system is meant to improve the employability of Moroccan students by focusing mainly on developing the foreign languages, soft skills, civic and professional skills. Under this new system, also university students will be having more flexibility. They will be given the chance to change their orientation if needed without losing their validated modules that are going to be counted as credits and added to their overall marks.
Thank you, Aratif. That's very interesting. I think your point about rigidity is something that a lot of universities are considering. You know, how can we allow students to pick and choose the courses that suit them best, but still let them leave with credentials that will be recognized in the jobs market? And I think that's a complicated issue. Imed, I'd really love to hear how you're tackling that.
Thank you for the great question, actually, a very important question. So, you know, at MedTech, as engineering school at SMU, the South Mediterranean University, we are aware that actually our students need both the hard skills package and the soft skills package. And we have taken care of this already in the way our curriculum has been developed and is being maintained. And actually, if I may use a metaphor that describes in a way best this, I mean, the way our curricula in a way are maintained is the T-shaped education, the letter T, right? So in the letter T, you have the horizontal segment and the vertical segment, right? So in our context, actually, the horizontal segment would kind of represent, you know, the soft skills package, the generic skills. Here I'm talking, for example, as engineering school, we are aware that our students need, of course, to know about, you know, business modeling. They need to know about finance. They need to know about management. They need to know about psychology, economics, you know, technical communication, oral communication, and so on, right? But then also you have the vertical segment that focuses on actually the technical skills, technological skills, right? So, for example, if I take a software engineering program and I'm a software engineering professor, right? So actually, the T in the T-shaped education kind of metaphor, the vertical segment will be the in-depth software engineering in a way skills. And actually, at SMU, at MedTech, we are in a way very lucky to have you know, a business school next to us and a language and culture institute. So actually, our students interact and collaborate on daily basis with business students. They are exposed to activities and events offered and organized by the Language and Culture Center. And actually, often, you know, we work in teams, right? And then often, like teams are mixed teams of both engineering students and business students. So our engineering students, they have a chance in a way to, you know, even listen and learn, you know, and get in a way the business perspective of things. And our business students also, they are aware of, you know, like the technological advances and so on. So, you know, at SMU, it's no surprise that, for example, our engineering students, they know how to work with the business model canvas, for example. Our, you know, business students, they know about artificial intelligence and blockchain, and, you know, for example, and this is thanks actually to this daily interaction between the two schools. So we believe that this kind of like multidisciplinary approach to education is actually a great way, a great tool to preparing our students, whether engineering students or business students, actually to the job market. I must also like emphasize the fact that in our training, we focus on extracurricular activities. So our students, they participate in clubs, in associations, and actually, again, you know, there have to be mixed clubs, there have to be mixed associations. Also, they participate in boot camps, in national and international competitions. We have been winners, for example, national and regional winners of the HUD Prize, the $1 million HUD Prize. We organize a lot of like workshops, seminars, you know, invited talks. So we believe that working both on the hard skills package and the soft skills package, by let's say taking a multidisciplinary approach to in a way to training, we are not only like for example in the engineering like context, we are not like only training, let's say, pure hardcore software in a way developers, but we are training, for example, like critical thinkers, problem solvers, learners, students who are actually able to work on challenges. And for us, this hard package and the soft skills package kind of like really help us a lot. And like I said, we enjoy the proximity of our two schools. We are, within the same campus, the business school, MSP, and the engineering school, MedTech. So this is how I would like, address in a way this challenge of preparing, our students to the job market. And like my friend, Professor Monji said, actually, the training should not take into consideration, today's needs, but actually we should prepare our students actually to the needs, like in 5 years' time or 3 years' time, depending actually on the duration of the program.
Thank you. You mentioned the proximity of your different departments physically on campus to each other. And I think another big change that we've seen recently is the fact that those physical boundaries have in some ways been broken down by an increase in online learning. Faye, I'd really like to speak with you about that as director of the e-learning center at your university. Have you found that kind of cross departmental collaboration is easier? Are people more open to that sort of working and learning now?
Thank you, Ashton, first of all, for the invitation. And I'd like to thank all of our attendees from around the world to come to the session today and listen to our thoughts about this. I do certainly agree with all my colleagues here about the importance of extracurricular activities for students. And as you said, Ashton, those boundaries are no longer there because of what the online learning and distance learning have facilitated to us. We have learned a lot, certainly, from this pandemic, and it has enabled us to basically move forward a number of years. We couldn't have imagined that we would reach that level of education using distance learning without the pandemic. I'd say in regards to that also, higher education have changed from previously being something that apprentices, or what we call in the modern days trainees, relationship to the master or to the trainer in the market, which was previously the relationship between someone who wants to learn beyond school to basically skills that are learned by academics in the classroom. And this has created a large gap between what the universities are preaching and trying to give in terms of academic knowledge and what the skills that are needed in the marketplace. And I'd say that universities around the world are trying to fill that gap with introducing extracurricular activities. And I'd like to stress on the importance of Moocs now, and with the distance learning and online education, this has become even more accessible to everyone today. So most of our learners have access to those MOOC programs that enables us to give them those missing skills that would connect the academic skills that they learn inside of their institutions to the marketplace. So today we teach students skills that maybe are not needed in the next 4 or 5 years when they graduate and go to the market. And also on the other hand, they might need other skills in 4 or 5 years' time that we don't know about today. So therefore, it is important to enable them to become autonomous in their learning and to give them the skills to acquire new knowledge as needed to become lifelong learners. And I think this should be the aim of higher education, not only to give them the skills and a specific knowledge, but also to enable them to acquire more knowledge as needed in the future.
Thank you. Before we move on to our next topic, I just wanted to remind our audience that we do have a Q&A box in today's session. So if you have any questions as we go along, please do enter them there and we will do our best to get to them. I wanted to return though to Dr. Faye's point about Moocs and the importance of creating lifelong learners. And I think Zahir is our representative from Coursera today. I know that you have access to a huge amount of data in terms of what are the most in-demand skills for students in the region. So what trends have you noticed in terms of skills that students perhaps want to take on as they move into the workplace?
Thanks, Ashton, for the great question indeed, and I want to thank everyone who's attending this really interesting session that everybody needs to be part of and know what's going on. So I want to go back to just to remind everyone that we are living in a region. I mean, the landscape of this region is the MENA region, and which is really suffering a lot of things. I mean, and if I think of like we are in this part of the Arab world or in this part of the region that we have the highest proportion of youth with more than half of its population under age 25. And we are considered to be part of one of the world's highest youth unemployment rate. We do have one of the world's largest unemployment rate in terms of youth. So unlike other economies or other developed countries or regions, which is more like an aging population. I mean, the Arab region has a significant potential to prepare a generation of youth to be well equipped to be productive citizens in their countries. And we believe that the key part here is to provide quality learning, specifically quality online learning, that would give them access to the most relevant skills to be competitive, not only in their domestic regional markets, but also on a global perspective. Because when we look at the future of work, I mean, and there's a lot of research has been taking place, and one of these is the most important paper is from the World Economic Forum, which talks about the evolving work and the millions of jobs that's been now displaced or going to be displaced by 2025, and the change of skills that if anyone really wants to stay in his role or in her role until 2025, they have to expect that at least 40% of their skills will be changed. That also has been strengthened by Coursera's really high access to almost 77 or 80 million learners. And as you can see in my background here, we produce on a yearly basis the Global Skills Index or the Global Skills Reports, which leverages information and data from almost 80 million learners. And what we have learned so far that all learners or most of the learners are coming to Coursera, at least I can talk about Coursera, that they wanted to advance and they wanted to develop their digital skills. And this is an area where we can see that digital skills development is becoming really a critical component or critical ingredients to tackling a number of pressing challenges. I give here one example about the change in or the transformation that's happening or that we're seeing in daily life and trade activities, starting from purchasing online to doing trade across countries. The reason why this is happening is that because companies are driving technology and automation technology, and that trend is really requiring universities and students to be having a lot of skills in terms of emerging skills. I'm talking here in e-commerce, in data analytics, in digital marketing, cybersecurity. All of these skills and all of these domains, they were there before, but now they've been accelerating. And this is what we've seen, that students who come to Coursera, they are really eager and keen to develop these type of skills.
Thank you, Zahir. Summer, I know that as Director of Teaching and Learning, all of these points must be things that you're thinking about a great deal at the moment. So if you could tell us what your insight on this is, that would be great. I would also like to put one of our audience questions to you, which is in line with the discussions we've been having so far. The question is, what can we do to teach entrepreneurship skills to our students?
Thank you very much, Ashton. Just doing a check. You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So I just wanted to kind of pivot first on Mr. Zahir's points about, the MENA region has its own sort of special slew of different challenges. We do have a very high youth population. In my institute, we have approximately 75% of our students who are international, so they are not residing in Qatar, that are normally brought into the sort of campus environment with all of its infrastructure and resources. When COVID hit, there was quite a push for us to extend ourselves and go to these rural areas and areas that don't have the infrastructure to ensure that there is academic continuity, that there are resources that are extended. Very much on our mind as an institution was, how do we equalize sort of the academic environment for those who have high connectivity, for those who are in rural parts of Sudan or Yemen or Gaza, or how do we ensure that the student experience is as equitable as possible? And so I think that what worked really well for us is, there was a strategic sort of a committee that was planned to ensure that, sort of to do an assessment of where is the greatest need, and to extend ourselves. So things like purchasing additional software, even hardware was sent out and DHL'd out to students, ensuring that there were stipends that were in place. One point that I wanted to raise is that one thing that we have realized is that the university atmosphere and sort of the mindset has changed. I feel that we are a lot more nimble, a lot more open, a lot more flexible. As a graduate institute offering master's degrees and very soon doctoral degrees, there was very much a mindset of, well, this is what a traditional university does. We're going to continue to do the very traditional thing. Now there is more thinking of how can we adapt and how can we adopt these new methods and new strategies. For example, using platforms like Coursera and other Moocs and other accessible software, how can we ensure that students have the tools within their hands? So with us or without us as an institution, and the point Dr. Faye mentioned about lifelong learning and sort of what we're here to do as a post-secondary institution is, how do we equip and put these tools in the hands of our learners? So to make us sort of almost not irrelevant, but to empower the learner to access as much as they possible to guide their own learning. So that became very important. And one last point before I move on to the entrepreneurship question became, our priority became investment in faculty professional development. Everybody understands that our professors come in from content expertise. They are scholars in their fields and are recognized publishers of books. However, that doesn't mean that they know and they are adept at and being able to accommodate the online learning environment. So investment of resources, money, training into our faculty to support them. A lot of our faculty communicated that they needed to play more of a nurturing role for our learners that they didn't have to before. There was a lot more hand-holding, and there was a need to humanize the experience of learning online. So instead of papers being marked and sort of sent electronically, it became, let's leave videos of remarks from the professor to the student to humanize it. There's a voice, there's sound, there's body language that's going into providing feedback and support to our learners. And I think that that's a remarkable thing, and it's sure to stay beyond COVID, is more of a humanistic nurturing role to the professor, to the students. With respect to entrepreneurship, again, as a graduate institute, very often this gets overlooked in that, it's all about scholarship and, the research skills. However, our students, as Mr. Zahid has mentioned, are looking for securing jobs. Even with a master's degree, a PhD, not all of them will become academics. Not all of them can become academics. It became, how do we sort of integrate the soft skills that Dr. Imad spoke about? It's being able to provide through the Career Center more support, more advice. We actually ventured for the first time into online internships and internship opportunities that were not just within the local context, but international internships. So these are some of the ways that we have been able to pivot and adapt and be more flexible.
Thank you, Sama. Those were some very interesting points. I see that Professor Imad has got his hand raised, so please do jump in there.
Yeah, thank you. So I just want to comment on the entrepreneurship question, right? So you know, I honestly I believe that entrepreneurship has to be taught in all curricula, in all programs, in all education programs, right? It could be humanities, it could be business, it could be architecture, it could be engineering. I think we need to teach entrepreneurship to all students. Already, like at MedTech, for example, we have a course. That's not the only way, the only one way we teach entrepreneurship, but we have like a course on startup engineering, right? And the startup engineering course is actually teaching our students, training our students how actually to build and develop their startups. I also want to say that there has to be a strong message from the university. So at SMU, for example, the first activity that our students, being engineering students or business students, do when they join the university is a bootcamp called Entrepreneurs of the Future, where students in mixed teams actually work together on a challenge, right? It could be, I don't know, tourism, it could be immigration, it could be digital well-being, whatever, right? So for a few days, they need to work together. And of course, I mean, we have like coaches, we have like instructors, trainers, you know, tutors, and so on, right? To help them actually with kind of like lightweight business skills, communication skills, technical skills, how to do prototyping, and so on. And then the idea is that they produce, you know, a solution. They develop a solution by the end of the bootcamp. So for us, that's a very strong message that actually people have to, you know, think in terms of like entrepreneurship and not only like rely on the public sector or joining like, you know, other companies and so on. Already we have great results. For example, so between 7 and 10% of our graduates actually do start their own business, which is actually a great result. I also want, my last thing of this question, we have an incubator, right? And again, it's an incubator with both hats, the business and the engineering, right? So that actually, in a way, that helps our students, both students and alumni, actually to develop and to accelerate in a way their business. So teaching entrepreneurship, strong message from the university, and having an incubator within the university would help a lot in the entrepreneurship journey and training. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ahmed. We've spoken so far a great deal about the ways that your institutions are modernizing and the changes that they're putting in place, but I imagine it hasn't all been the smoothest journey. And I think it's important to discuss the challenges that you've all faced during this time, and of course, the ways that you've overcome those challenges. So I would like perhaps to go back to Dr. Monji and ask what the biggest challenge you have faced was, and how have you moved forward from it, and how can our audience learn from your own, we won't say mistakes, but you know, your own development.
Thank you. I think that the digital gap between the elites and part of the inhabitants of the MENA region must be highlighted. Obviously, these questions might seem unimportant in view of the challenge that await the increasingly unequal education system of the future. This is precisely the problem. While the debates on education in MENA region still revolve around ideological questions, the lack of consensus around the model we want for our university prevent us from focusing on pressing issues for our students, such as the place of English, of the main methods of teaching ICT technology. But our country must have citizens capable of communicating effectively from a technical and linguistic point of view. The use of ICT at university is therefore essential in the process of acquiring in the 21st century skills made up of 4 C's: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. The mastery of these 4 skills indeed facilitates the success of students at the university, at work, as a citizen. I must go back to the effort made by Coursera. I think that Coursera is make a global contribution. Digital learning and learning should be taken place all over the planet, not just in technologically advantaged countries. They should maximize the possibilities for students from different countries to collaborate with each other. With Coursera made with a good way. Function and value of digital learning. These functions are to allow students to equip themselves with the tools to meet the challenges and demand of life and work. Flexibility. Students should have many options for online and digital learning. The best learning program will not simply reflect existing forms of teaching, but a range of flexible learning opportunities that take advantage of new digital tools, different styles, and learning needs. Hybrid learning, digital and learning should be connected to the real world and have application on sets of real world problems. It should combine face-to-face and online teaching. Persistence. Digital learning is immersion. It requires lifelong pursuit by the learner who should have the technical possibility. Innovation. Technical and pedagogical innovation should be characteristic of the best learning environments. A wide variety of pedagogical approaches, learning tools, methods, and practice should support diverse learning styles of students. Learning should be flexible, dynamic, and individualized. Formative evaluation. Students should be given the opportunity to review and to learn until they achieve the level of proficiency that they desire on a given subject or skill. And pedagogical term, this means individualized teaching and a lot of feedback, formative evaluation rather than and of training evaluation. This is summative evaluation. Experimentation should be an important component of digital learning, and curiosity. Digital education should inspire the unexpected, experimentation, and questioning. These allow to work on new skills that are essential in the 21st century to experience and be able to embrace change.
Thank you, Dr. Mondi. I wanted to pick up on your point about connecting real-world face-to-face interactions and teaching with the online models that we've been mostly using over the last year and a half. And I think you spoke about a hybrid model that combines the two of them and takes the very best of both of those learning environments moving forward. And I think it's a difficult balance to gain. But it's one that we're going to have to address. So I wonder, Professor Awatif, how are you addressing that hybrid model of learning moving forward? And what aspects of both online and in-person teaching do you think we have to hold on to, and do you think we can let go of?
Yeah, okay. This is really a very important issue. We have developed since the beginning of the pandemic a new e-learning platforms, as we had to switch from presence teaching to distance teaching. And we have developed by our own experts of information systems, and in collaboration with the local SME and digital environments where all students and professors can access the courses, 100% of the courses online in synchronous mode, in video conferences. And we, since after we have exit from the lockdown, we started to move to a hybrid mode of learning, and this was really a new experience for students and for teachers. And it was done this way because we had and we still have to respect, you know, the distance, the social distancing, and the limited capacity in the amphitheaters and in the classrooms. And this was technically not obvious at the beginning, because we had to synchronous between the presence parts of the course and the distance part of the course. Now we have fully fixed this, and we have also run out a large campaign of sensitization, but also training of teachers to use this new mode. To be honest, the students loved this mode. It was really a very nice experience for them, because University Hassan II of Casablanca is very very big university. We have more than 125,000 students, and we had and we still have some problems of, you know, a high density of students in the amphitheater. Sometimes the amphitheater room for example 300 students, and we have 500 students entering the amphitheater. So this was like a solution for us to go to this hybrid mode. So we will keep this way of teaching, because this solve our problem for with this capacity, how to manage the capacity of amphitheaters given the large number of students that we have. We started also a program of developing a green area connected, so that the students can go to the green area and they have their internet, and they can access easily to their classroom from this green area that we have managed in the campus. And also we developed what we call students learning centers, because we have some students, they don't have they don't have laptops. They are coming from social classes that they cannot pay, unfortunately, the connection, you know. So we developed this students learning center, which are like free access for the students. They can access there. They find the computer, personal computer. They find the connection, free connection, of course. So they can access without paying anything to their courses from everywhere from our university that is located in almost in all the area of the Casablanca region. And this was really very important and was really very appreciated by our students. So we will keep this mode for the future, and we will, of course, this is a new way of teaching and new way of learning also. And this is why we have contracted also we have signed this partnership with the Coursera, because this will offer us also a large offer of courses for soft skills, but also immersion skills and also digital skills, and that are offered from you know, very famous universities. So really, well, unfortunately, the pandemic was something very bad. We know it, because we many teachers and friends, they passed away, and this is something dramatic, and it's a very hard experience we faced. But the other side was that we moved now in a digital way and introducing e-learning, and this was something positive. This switch to this distance learning or hybrid learning that we will keep as official learning teaching mode in our university.
Thank you, Professor Awatif. That's really great to hear that you've managed to find a silver lining in amongst all of this. I would like to turn to another question from our audience. This one is actually specifically for Sama. And it's about the diversity of the international student cohort that you mentioned previously. The question is, how do you offer these students quality education, knowing that they come from different countries that might demand different skills?
Thank you for the question. It's actually a great question because, in fact, different parts of the Middle East have their own standards, have their own sort of qualifications frameworks, and we had another layer to deal with COVID and moving online, in that some educational ministries do not recognize online learning. And so this was a push for how do we ensure our own academic quality, but have these other nations recognize that what we have done in the switch to online is still going to maintain academic integrity and academic rigor. First off, of course, most institutions will develop their programs in alignment with international standards. The Doha Institute for Graduate Studies is by no means any exception. So as it is, our programs do align to the international standards. We offer, for example, a clinical and social psychology program that's aligned to the American Psychological Association. When it came to, the digital aspect, it really became, how do we support our students in being able to match and meet those criteria in a new modality, in an online modality. And as I've mentioned, and as a lot of my colleagues have mentioned, it came to just, really providing as much support as possible, doing a lot more hand holding, a lot more office hours, and a lot of support infrastructures, such as these online platforms offering remediation. So a platform like Coursera or other sorts of Moocs can provide the necessary remediation that students need so that they are not left behind. That's it really in brief, but quality has become very, very important. I will add one more point. We actually convened as a committee with different academic leaders to define how we're going to ensure quality in the institution during these exceptional circumstances. How are we going to ensure, or at least mitigate, things like plagiarism and lack of integrity? How do we authenticate student learning? And so tools that are out there for checking the authenticity of work were purchased and were integrated. And like I said before, it was really, really key for us to bring in that human aspect, that personal touch, to try to nurture the relationship between professor and student to the best of our ability. And that was really the key.
Thank you for that answer. I'd like to turn now to Dr. Faye and speak a bit more specifically about Bahrain's economic vision for 2030. I wonder how your university is interacting with that vision and promoting advances in science and technology, increasing collaboration, and just generally aligning your own goals with the vision for 2030.
Yes, thank you, Ashton. Of course, the University of Bahrain is the biggest higher education institution in Bahrain, so it was very important for the university to align its strategy for the next 4 years and 4 years to come, and so on, to the economic vision of 2030 until we reach 2030. All of the curriculums in the university are being constantly updated because of the feedback that we receive from the industry. We do have an industry advisory board for each program that we have at the university, and we continue to listen to their feedback about what is the shortage in the market and how can we achieve the Economic Vision 2030 with our academic programs and enabling future professionals to be learning in an educational environment that would enable them to get these skills that are needed to achieve that vision. Now, we also have several accreditations going on, which helps us to achieve that. We do have the National Framework for Accreditation in Bahrain, which also works, but in a higher level with the Ministry of Education and so on, to align the visions of all higher education institutions in Bahrain, private and public, to the Vision 2030. Also professional accreditations, whether in IT and STEM education in general, and engineering and business and mathematics and so on, are also helping us in that source, because they're all aligned to the Bahrain 2030 vision, because economically we want to achieve better STEM education for our students and so forth. So we are constantly being informed about the skills needed for the future jobs, and therefore we try to cater for that, either by updating our existing programs or creating new programs. Like for instance, in the last, I'd say, year and a half, the University of Bahrain have came up with more than, I'd say, 20 new programs in postgraduate and undergraduate studies. These are in very recent fields that are needed now, like big data and artificial intelligence and so on and so forth. These did not exist 10 years back or 5 years back. So we continue to create new programs, update our basic programs, or I would say the main knowledge programs in engineering and IT and literature and so on, to be aligned also with this vision. And also we supplement our existing curriculums with extracurricular activities and programs like the Moocs that I've mentioned earlier. So I think throughout these three initiatives, we are able to align our strategy with the Economic Vision 2030.
Thank you, Dr. Faye. You mentioned the difficulty of updating courses in line with the shortages that we find in the workplace. And Zahir, I imagine that this is something that Coursera is very aware of in terms of your own offering. So how do you support universities to fill these gaps, and how do you adjust your course offering for that purpose?
Thanks, Ashton. And this is really a great question again. So basically, and briefly, I mean, as everybody knows, Coursera's ecosystem is the most unique among many other providers. I'm not talking about the content that's coming from universities. I'm not talking about the professional certificates and the Moocs. I mean, the ecosystem by itself is giving Coursera a leverage on the data that we are using, and actually sharing it with our university customers and university partners. So we published recently, 2 months ago, an ebook about how to bridge the gap in how to bridge the gap of student employability skills. So what we did here in this report is that we looked at the skills that students, for example, they are studying biological sciences, and what current skills they do have at the university at the moment, what's their aspirations in terms of career, what are the intended careers that they are looking for, like a biologist or a biostatistician or biomedical engineer. And we also, at the same time, we looked at the skills that professionals in these roles have. And we saw a big gap in a lot of areas. Most of these are related to digital skills. And what we found out that universities at the moment, I mean, they really looked at the core subjects in biology or in the domain of the student that's studying, but they are neglecting the others simply because maybe there is no time, or there is no faculty that can be allocated for those students. So what we're seeing here is that we're adding a lot of value to universities by advising them and curating certain pathways, advising them that these are the areas that your students need to have. it is a must to have for them to be really competitive in the job market. The other thing is that, I'm briefly speaking here, I mean, because of the technology is moving so fast, I mean, the pace of technology is moving so fast, many universities, not only in the Arab world, I mean, all across the world, they are finding it difficulty to update their curricula. And this is one challenge that we're seeing and we're hearing. And this is where, you know, they're finding value in Coursera, because we keep, you know, updating the content that's coming from almost 150 university partners. So yeah, this is in brief. And one last thing here is about the hands-on learning. I mean, I think Professor Dr. Awatif, she mentioned about the challenges that students cannot have access to laptops or maybe labs. And this, I'm sure that it's affecting and impacting their hands-on experience by learning, the skills that the market needs. Again, this is an area where we are helping a lot with very specialized, courses, or I would say we call them guided projects from Coursera, that many universities are really appreciating, and it's adding a lot of value to the whole experience of the students.
Thank you, Zahir. We've got about 5 minutes left of today's session. And in that time, I would like to return to Professor Imed and speak a little bit more about the challenge of hands-on learning that Zahir and actually most of our panel has brought up today. So is that something, do you think that we can ever achieve the same level of teaching via online courses? Do you think that there are some things that will always have to be in person, like engineering? Or do you think that we would turn back to that hybrid model that seems to be becoming so popular?
Thank you for the question. And I just also wanted to mention that, of course, we are, before answering the question, like we're partner with Coursera, and we are very happy and very thankful. Actually, we're using Coursera not only for our students, but our students, alumni, faculty, and staff. We have developed capacity building programs by using the Coursera courses and so on. So back to your question, yes, as engineering school, we have faced this problem of hands-on experience because engineering courses, of course, they have both the theoretical aspects and then the practical, hands-on kind of parts. Especially, it was like a problem, a challenge during the confinement. Luckily, actually, of course, we did research and looked for alternatives and so on. And there are actually existing solutions. For example, we have started using virtual labs. So we can, for example, use simulators and emulators in a way to simulate physics experiments, chemistry experiments, electronics, and so on. We have actually started more and more to use online platforms and IDEs actually for software development. And actually, guess what? I mean, even in synchronous actually sessions, our professors, were able actually to share, their screen, and then students actually would kind of share their screens actually with the professor to, for example, show their code or their, models or whatever, and then the students actually, the professors actually would comment and give remarks on those. Actually, works on the spot. So, of course, I mean, I think we need to, get the best of in-person, learning and online learning. So for us, SMU, we're gonna continue digital. All of our classes are equipped with smart cameras, with screens. Participants, they can be actually here on campus, they can join remotely. There is full interaction between all parties. We plan actually to blend some of our courses with Coursera courses, and our friend Zahir mentioned about the guided projects, for example, as engineering school. We plan to use them. Of course, it's in our DNA to work on problems. We use problem-based learning, project-based learning, So our students actually would, in a way, use their in a way, out of class time to work on concrete projects, so they don't need to be actually on campus, right? I think in summary, strategically, we are gonna maintain the best elements of in-person learning, and also like adopt and adapt the best elements of online and digital learning. So I would put it that way. And of course, I mean, I just wanted to maybe be clear on this. So actually, these kind of reflections, actually at SMU, we have these reflections and these handling of these challenges at 3 levels actually. So we have actually a level that we call delivery and operations. So we have units and committees who are making sure that our offering actually is still of high quality on daily basis. So we call that delivery and operations. We have other committees that act actually more on the experimentation and optimization. So for example, we tried actually with shortening the sessions from 1.5 hours to 1 hour during the confinement in a way period. So we are experimenting and optimizing, but also we have committees at the strategy and innovation, right? And all these different kinds of committees are important, right? So one takes care of daily operations, maintaining the quality, one that is continuously experimenting with new things. We are living in an agile world. And the other one, and here we have an advisory board. We have of course, participants from the industry, from international universities. We have our Coursera France actually to help us more on strategic questions to actually innovate and then of course update both our curricula and then our pedagogical methods.
Thank you, Professor Imed. And that brings us perfectly to the end of today's session. So I would like to once again thank our panel for sharing your insights with us today, and we certainly hope to speak with you again very soon. I'd also like to thank our audience for joining us today and for sending all of your questions throughout the session. So we hope to see each of you again very soon, but for now, goodbye.